Good afternoon everyone, and welcome to the third webinar of the Visual Marketing series that the DMA brings you in conjunction with visual marketing specialist Olapic. In the first couple of webinars, you learnt the benefits of integrating consumer-generated visual content as part of your marketing and e-commerce strategies, how to encourage consumers to create more content for your brand, and how this content can help with the purchase decision. Today, we'll be taking you through how to engage customers across the entire journey, from the moment they learn about the brand to the moment they decide to make a purchase and become repeat customers. If you missed the first couple of webinars of the series, you will still be able to listen to the recordings, and you will still have the chance to reply to the short quizzes we created after each webinar. We will send out the final quiz soon, and we'll follow up with all the results. Those of you who complete all three quizzes with over 60% correct answers will receive the Visual Marketing Series Completion Award that will show you have the knowledge to start integrating visual marketing effectively into your strategy. Also, do stay tuned throughout the webinar as there will be a giveaway towards the end, and we invite you all to get involved with this session over Twitter with the hashtag #VisualSeries. Now, just a couple of housekeeping points. If we lose sound, please let us know as soon as possible in the group message box, and we will adjust everything to make sure to compensate. If you have questions, then please write them in the question box, and I'll pose these in the Q&A session. So Anna will start to speak shortly, and that'll be up to about 3:45, and that's when the Q&A session starts, and we hope to then finish by 4 o'clock. So just to give you a bit of background on Olapic, they provide a marketing technology that offers the engine to enable brands to collect, curate, obtain the rights, publish and analyse the success of user-generated content across their e-commerce site and brand communications. As part of their client base, you will see some of the brands that have been pioneering innovation in visual marketing over the last few years. So these include Calvin Klein, Unilever, L'Oreal, Coach, and many others. They have over 150 employees with offices in New York, Los Angeles, Cordoba, London, and after a recent announcement of Picora, they now have an office in San Francisco. Today, it's their London-based Senior Marketing Manager, Ana de Jesus, that we have joining us in this webinar. So Anna replaces Becky, who was initially scheduled to speak today, but to unforeseen personal circumstances can't make it. So Anna is a chartered marketer with more than 10 years experience in marketing and is a regular writer and blogger within visual marketing. So we're very pleased to have her sharing her knowledge and expertise on the subject with us today. So with no further ado, I'd like to pass you over to Anna.
Great, thank you very much, Ed. So thank you all for joining us today. In this final webinar of this series, I want to make sure I'll leave you with an all-rounded view of everything you learned throughout the series. So I'll bring in some topics we previously discussed whenever relevant to also ensure you leave the session today with a good overview of what you too can do for your brand from a visual marketing perspective. So instead of just talking you through some theory and ideas, I actually put this webinar together to be packed with real examples of how brands are engaging the customers throughout the entire purchase journey, as I believe that will be the best way for you to actually, take some real inspiration and ideas that you can then reuse for your business. So I want to start with a case study with our retail client West Elm, which I feel that it's a great example of how a brand that is attracting and supporting consumer decisions throughout their journey with appealing visual content whilst getting their customers involved. For those of you who don't know West Elm, they are a home furnishing retailer that started off in New York and currently has stores not only in the US but also in Canada, Australia and in the United Kingdom. So West Elm found an opportunity to start involving the customers in their own communications as they started seeing some great photography that the customers were actually publishing at their homes when they furnished them with West Elm products. That's when they partnered with Olapic and then to help them create a strategy around that content, curate it, obtain the rights from the consumers to use it, and then publish it as well in a scalable way across their several properties. So West Elm then started encouraging customers to take photos of its products by heavily promoting the hashtag in all of their communications, from, say, the point of sale to email communication, social, and a lot more. And as customers started to share how they were styling their homes with the My West Helm hashtag, the brand leveraged that content first on their website in a gallery of inspirational consumer-generated content. And if you actually go now onto their website, westhelm.com or .co.uk, you can see that initial gallery of images. As you scroll down to their homepage, you'll see a carousel towards the bottom where you see that consumer-generated content. They then, what they did is they linked those products included in the photos with the actual product photos, and then analyzed which of those photos were driving higher click-through rates and revenue metrics. And then by doing it this way, what they were able to determine which of those photos were more influential, and in turn they started using that across other channels. So this is just to give you an overview of the story and how they started. From the West Helm perspective, this was not only a great way to drive traction and engagement within new users of the website, but also to celebrate their customer style and how they're bringing their products together to the comfort of their own homes. So here on this slide, we see examples of how consumer photos were actually used on the e-commerce site associated with products, as I mentioned before. So basically, as consumers are scrolling through that gallery of images on the homepage, they click on the images they like, and that image will pop up, like this one's an example, where they're associated with both the original user handle who posted the photo and the caption they used when they published it, which will typically reflect as well how happy they are with the products in that photo, which again is a real authentic testimonial of how good that product is. So then if you see in the photo at the back, it is associated with West Helm carpet, and then that consumers then can click through to shop directly on the product page. And in the image at the front, we identify 3 products actually featured in the image. There is the cutlery, the bowl, and the plates. They're all West Helm. And as you can see here, there are 2 products currently visible on the side, and then if you hit that little button, the little arrows, you can see the 3rd product. They all link directly to the product page. So this is quite strong because not only has the reference from the customer, it links straight away to the product that you want to purchase within that image. So then West Helm uses the website as the hub for all the earned content or user-generated content they get. And as I mentioned before, it's the ones that have highest converting photos that then they use in other channels, such as emails and catalogs, for example. So this is, in this slide we have here 2 examples of that case. So West Helm selected consumer photos from products that they were more interested in selling, and included those as part of the email that you see on the left. So then people can receive those directly into their inboxes, look at the ones that interest them and that inspire them, and then click through to the website. Then on the right-hand side, what you can see is West Helm's version of a catalog fully printed with user-generated content, or with a mixture between branded content and a lot of user-generated content. This was actually one of the first clients that took UGC offline, and what they included also the creative Instagram handles to highlight the fact that these are how real consumers are selling in their houses. So not the work of prop stylists in a studio, which gives that sort of additional authenticity and relevance. And the use of this type of photography not only gave more confidence to the people looking through the catalog, but also to the consumers that were referenced in that catalog by their photos. They're proud to have their photos selected by West Helm, and they're proud to, and that triggers them to also keep publishing more content for West Helm and feel proud and encouraged to share with their friends as well some of their photography. They also leverage their top performing content in social advertising, and as part of their mobile site shopping experience. So in the sponsored Facebook adverts that you see on the left, they actually wrote, so top brass loves at Beck's Bakey LN shop of our terrace coffee table. So this way, with this advert, they're clearly showcasing as part of the advert that this is a consumer's own photo, and after all, they are selecting consumer photos that are high quality and could be easily perceived as a branded content if they wouldn't make that sort of reference. So this gives that sort of authenticity. And on the right, you see how their website is mobile optimized, allowing people to easily scroll through the user photography too. And then online, beyond the product page, Westhelm also distributed consumer content for other purposes that they would normally use branded content, such as, say for example, promotion of a new store or of a new product range. And in the end, by having a large amount of earned consumer content to work with, it just means that the brand has a lot more quality content, constantly fresh, constantly new, that it can use in just about the same type of communications as you would use branded content. And please note that I'm not trying to say here that you should entirely replace branded content with earned content, because there is a place for both types of content, and as part of a good brand visual strategy, that gives that added support of creative new content for your team to work with. That's kind of the benefit of having earned content alongside. So, I started the webinar with a case study, so you can have this overview of how brands can integrate the content that is earned by consumer creation through an omnichannel approach. But I feel there are many brands doing great things with visual content, with some particular channels, but there's just not enough brands doing it throughout the entire journey. I mean, Westhelm is doing it, but over this webinar, I'll talk you through several examples of how others are doing it well as well for particular channels. So hopefully you too can take the plunge and involve this fully consistent visual marketing experience across the entire journey for your own customers, for your own brand. For now, it's important to just take you through the benefits of why actually including earned content as part of the customer journey can be so positive for your brand and for your consumers. So consistency, driving consistency on the experience, on the experience the customer has with the brand is just very important. By embracing that earned content at any given point in the buyer's journey, whether that's online, in store, in print, billboard advertising, etc., it just helps the consumer to understand that the brand consistently listens to the consumer and that they are celebrating their achievements as part of everything they do. It shows the brand. It shows that the brand cares for the consumer, and consumers enjoy being cared for. We all know that. Brands that only showcase consumer-generated content in one form of communication may do come across as if they're doing this one-off UGC campaign, and that positioning of caring for the customer doesn't come across as well through the one-off activity. It certainly has its benefits as well of doing the one-off, but it's best practices to be able to really showcase it across the multi-channel, across all sorts of communications that consumers see. Then another benefit is to encourage purchase. So by making the visual experience consistent across the journey, you are also encouraging purchase as people feel more compelled to buy, given the trust factor associated with other consumer photography. In the case of the Westhelm, for example, they saw a 30% uplift in conversion since they started integrated user-generated content in their communication. So that's pretty strong. And then another benefit of this consistent approach can also help you obtain constant customer feedback on your products. as you'll be learning how people are actually using your brand through the photos that they post. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then finally, the long-term and consistent use of consumer photography will also help your brand transform those who love your brand into ambassadors of your brand, as they know you're listening and you are keen to get more involved, and they are keen to get more involved with the brand. So there are different ways how you can make earned content work for your brand in what encouraging purchase is concerned. You've already seen some examples from my thumb, but now it's when I want to talk you through each of these channels in just a little bit more detail. So, firstly, make sure to include consumers' earned content straight from the homepage. So it's a great way to grab consumers' attention straight away with like a carousel of inspirational imagery that links back to each respective product page. And every visual you pick, you need to consider it still needs to match the look and feel of your brand. That's just as you would do if you were publishing studio photography. So for example, looking at Calvin Klein as an example here. Calvin Klein is a trendy brand, it's cool, it's sexy, and this is showcased by the type of models they put and the type of photography they put. But you know, all models look great. I mean, they go to the gym 5 times a day or 5 times a week. They all gonna look great in that photography. So people may doubt if Calvin Klein's jeans, underwear, shirts will actually make them look as trendy and as sexy as the people they see on their adverts. So this is exactly what Calvin Klein is doing with user-generated content in their website gallery, related with the hashtag #MyCalvins. So Calvin Klein is obviously still curating the content posted by consumers to ensure this showcases those customers that talk the talk and walk the walk of what the brand actually stands for. But these are real people like you and me, and that's what's important. These are real consumers who feel a relation with the brand, who fit with their positioning, and who want to showcase their Calvin Klein look. So website visitors can scroll through the gallery and get inspiration on the different styles and click through the images they like, and most of them, to be directed to the product page to actually make a purchase. So another cool feature brands can add to their website involves the user-generated tagging based on location. And this is particularly useful for fashion or beauty. So consumers like to find out what others who live near them or who live in trendy parts of their city or their country are wearing, and this is where the shoppable map can help. So for example, because I live in London, I can refer to my local examples. Say where some people who live in other parts of the UK might be looking for inspiration from the style of Londoners, for example. They'll look through London to see what people are wearing in the city. Or even people within London might be looking for how people who live in different parts of the city are selling it. So, say for example, if one wants to go for the hipster look, they'll probably want to look for inspirational content posted by people who live in the Hackney area. Whereas if they want to go through the more trendy British look, they might want to look through the photos of people living in the Fulham or the Chelsea areas, for example. So this is just an example of how to show how shoppable map can look like, the one that we have on our slide. This was by our client Coach. So they're using it in the US, and as people click through the photos in their areas of interest, they're directed to a pop-up that again pulls in that customer photo with a link to the respective product page. Then, when the visitors come to the product page, make sure you also feature product-specific UGC on that page to showcase products in context, to add life to that sort of flat pack shots and provide more of a peer confirmation of purchase and inspiration to buy. So in the J.Crew product page example on the left, the product is featured large, and then they add the relevant own content featuring the same bag in different colors in a carousel at the bottom. On the other example on the right, Vans is, they opted for a different approach. They combine both the product branded photos and user-generated content associated with the main image, and then as people can just click through the small icons to see all of those photos in large. So it's just different ways of approaching it.
Okay, well, we're going to have a small break here just to have a little poll. So we're asking you, the listener, do you upsell or cross-sell with visual marketing? I'll just read the choices through for you. So do you do this on the website after a purchase? Do you do this while the user is looking at a product page? Do you do it by email? Do you do it through your blog? Or maybe you do not use these type of cross-sell strategies? So if you want to have a quick vote now, we'll just pause for a few seconds just so you can choose one of these options. Okay, so we'll continue now with the webinar.
Okay, that's very interesting results. So let's see. So no one tried to do a cross-sell after a purchase, or a few people. No one uses a blog, and about the equal amount of people are doing it while looking at a product page, after the purchase by email, or they just don't use it at all. And you know why it's interesting this? It's because it's exactly through the blog that I'm going to give you an example after. So what we've done here with West Elm is that they use their blog for cross-selling products, where they have the articles of the different posts, and then some of the articles will feature also UGC related with products that they can buy. So even though people are looking through the blog and reading through the blog for ideas and inspiration, they also do that sort of cross-sell of interesting content related and upselling to actual products that can visit on the website. So in this case, we had their main feature was actually a blog post on a workshop for painting, but then on the right hand side they have 11 pet approved rugs with some cute photos of pets with rugs of West Elm, and obviously those will link to the product pages as well. So that was just an interesting example of how they've done it. Consumer generated content also help you add local relevance, to add local relevance to the website. So as you curate the content exposed across different sites to feature local people or locations or product range, etc., for an increased appeal and relevance by local people. So you'd put relevant people in the Russian site, and people that are more content that is more relevant to the American site on that site. So exactly use it in relevance for who your audience is. Brands can also use email to communicate with the consumer at several different stages in their purchase decision, right? So, for example, via email. For example, in this promotional email, Hyatt added user-generated content as part of the email to encourage the booking for specific Hyatt properties. And then on this different example, Rockport has used it to promote a competition that encourages people to create more user-generated content for the brand. And brands can even get more creative with email and go down the hyper-personalization route to showcase different UGC content depending on who the person who is opening the email is and which stage of the of the year it is, etc. So, for example, say if the recipient of the email is a male, you can, and you're trying to promote like male footwear, you're trying to promote footwear, then you can use male footwear for that specific recipient, and if it's a female opening that same email, you would showcase female footwear. Or say the weather, if the weather is raining in the day that you open the email, the person opens the email, you would showcase photos of UGC of people in rainy outfits. And if you open the email on a sunny day, you showcase people in like summer clothes. So that's quite interesting. We actually partner with one of our partners, Movable Ink, which is the email provider that does that sort of personalization on the emails. But we just think that it's quite interesting. It's quite an interesting example of what brands can do in terms of personalization. And you can also leverage user-generated content as part of your cart abandoned email. Like the children's brand Giggle has done it with photos of some really cutie babies that just make you want to click through and go back to the site. And these are all babies that were user-generated content as well. So that's a great example there. And in this post-purchase email, Giggle is asking the customer to just share photos of their more recently purchased product. So that's another way to incentivize and encourage people to take some photos with a hashtag. Brands should also leverage earned content as part of their ad campaigns. So Magnum did that to promote their Magnum London Pleasure store that was opened over summer last year. This was an experimental store where customers could create their own ice cream. Therefore, there was no better advocate to the ad than the actual consumer itself, who was going to the Magnum store and making their own creations. And that's exactly the sort of that sort of content that Magnum used. Just like West Elm did it, they also tested it first on the microsites that they had, and understood which photos were receiving the highest click-through rates, and then it was those photos that they used on the social ads. Then brands' earned content also doesn't need to be exclusively used with the brand's own communication channels. In fact, the more these are respread across other brand properties, the wider the reach and the exposure of that content. So in this case that we have here, Olapic helps Unilever's Simple Skincare publish earned content on their brands as well as on several retailer partner websites through content syndication. So in this way, Simple Skincare has was in control of their content DNA because they were the ones selecting which photos they wanted to be showcased in their partners' websites, and they saw a significant increase in traffic driven to the retailer sites whilst maintaining that control. And according to Unilever's Head of E-Commerce Center of Excellence, exposing that consumer content across a variety of retailer websites has been important to them, as it helped them get more customers exposed to that trusted content. So that's important. Then brands can also publish earned content in mobile optimized sites. Like this is an example of how Texas Tourism has done it, where the users can simply scroll up and down to view the gallery of the user-generated content and therefore click through and to find out more. And you can also leverage it as part of your mobile apps. So Olapic can make that integration into either new or existing mobile apps, allowing you to track mobile analytics separately from other UGC websites, so you can get a clear picture of what your customers are doing on the go on the mobile. So this is a great app example we have on the slide. It comes from Giggle as well, the children's brand. I actually encourage you to download their app so you can have a better understanding of how it can look. As you open the app, basically, you are directed to a gallery of user-generated content, like the one you see on the screen, so with like 3 or 4 photos. And these are all organized by themes at the top. So you have like hashtag mealtime, and then all the photos you'll see will be related with meal-related products. Then you have another hashtag called hashtag playtime, and if you click there, you'll change the different gallery of images that relate with Giggle toys and so on. And then as you go through the galleries and you click on the photo of product you like, this appears in a larger format with the indication of the handle of its original creator, as well as the original caption shared on Instagram and a button to shop that product. So it just provides like a really great and really easy user experience, and it's just fully supported by user-generated content. So I think it's a great example of how it can be done. Many of our customers may get inspiration directly from your Instagram account. So you also want to make sure that when they find something that they like through Instagram, that they will be able to click through to buy that product as well. So this is where Olapic can also come into play. As you know, Instagram doesn't allow to make photos clickable. However, Olapic's TAPSHOP does. It simply connects with your brand's Instagram account, enabling each photo to become shoppable, as you can see in this example from Vera Bradley here. And this is just in the next slide. So this is just an example from Justin and Murphy, where you can see the different squares. Some of them have shop this item. So as you scroll over them in an iPad, the different ones will just have immediately shop here. And if your customers are more on Pinterest, similar situation, of course. You can also add pins of your customer's photography to the pin board and make it shoppable by tagging each image with a link to the product page. Then brands should also ensure that they use the same channels from where they collect consumer-generated content as channels to showcase that same content and encourage people to post more. So in this example here, Coach has done, they published a post in their Instagram account that they also grabbed from Instagram, and then they reference their client. So they're saying here on the caption, if you can't see it, Dinky but Wild, hashtag Coach 1941, photo at Gracie Mercedes. Therefore, they are referencing the customer, they are referencing that they like the photo, and they literally just repurposing a photo that their customer has uploaded to the platform. Then you can also use it in collateral. So in this example, the champagne brand Veuve Clicquot is using Facebook to ask people to add more content to their gallery that then they use. Oh, actually, this apologies. This should be entitled social because it still refers to Facebook. So here they are publishing it on Facebook, and they're using Facebook to incentivize people to add more photos to their gallery. And it's the next one where we'll be talking about collateral. So here it's an example of an offline piece where you can integrate user-generated content across the offline experience by adding it to pieces of collateral such as brochures or leaflets, etc. So in this example, J.Crew also included a hashtag, accessory fix, as a call to action for recipients as part of the brochure that they send out to clients. And Then here, this refers to product packaging. So you can also use it in the actual package of the product, because especially in makeup and beauty sort of products, like the one we have in the example from NYX, things like foundations, for example, it can be very hard to imagine how it will actually look like when the consumer puts that product on. So they opted to have the user-generated content there in their own packaging to showcase how people are applying it and how it will look in the skin tone, etc. And then finally, looking through billboard advertising. So if your brand does outdoor advertising, then nothing more attractive than actually having your own consumers featured right in the center of Times Square in New York with a massive billboard with their face, just like Macy's did it. So they did it actually earlier this year, and in this case there was a rotation between customer photos and screens, encouraging more people to show their hashtag Macy's love on Instagram for a chance to be featured in the Times Square billboard. So that's very strong, and obviously they got a ton of content just for the interest as well for the consumer of being up on that board. Then almost unintended benefit of earned content activation, as we look through a different of the benefits of ongoing consumer engagement with visual content, is the ability to get feedback from the customers. So as the customer community starts getting involved with your brand at every touch point, you'll be able to start obtaining more knowledge about that customer and how they're using that product. So for example, as you collect, you integrate it on your website, you analyze it, you look through each of the photos, your brand can start learning how these customers are actually using the product and what impact it may be having on their lives. So perhaps in addition to the product's primary use that your brand thought you would be the intended usage, consumers may discover actual new functionality or new purpose that has a more emotional impact for them. I mean, if you think about it, the history is actually full of these sort of examples. Like, for example, let's think about the cotton swabs. The actual purpose initially when they created cotton swabs at the start was for makeup application, cleaning and arts and crafts, but obviously everyone knows that everyone is using them as ear cleaners. Another example is, for example, toothpaste. The actual purpose is obviously to clean your teeth, but in addition to that, consumers are also using toothpaste to things like products to polish silver or soothe minor skin irritations like bug bites. So that's interesting as well. Then maybe you must have all heard already about the IKEA hackers. So there's like this entire web community out there to help consumers share new ways of using IKEA furniture, so other than what it was intended initially by the manufacturer, where they literally grab all the items of one unit and transform it, repaint it, etc., and give it another use. So this opens up additional purchasing opportunity for consumers and also extends the product's lifetime value. And of course I could go on, but I mean, you get the idea. Consumers have ingenuity and they have intelligence and they find utility in just different ways. So there's an enormous value in that realization, and enabling it through earned content can help bring an unexpected personality to your brand. So it's an infinite focus group helping consumers find new ways of using your products, and also in turn helping inform them with future development, engagement strategy, and even increasing the potential of your marketing efforts in all means. So a final benefit of around the continuous visual marketing engagement with the customer across the entire journey refers to the possibility of transforming brand fans into ambassadors. So when a consumer takes photos or videos of himself or herself enjoying a product, they're explicitly telling you they are advocates of your brand. They like or they love your brand. And so being able to nurture this advocacy and celebrate it and reward it, this is what turns simple advocates into brand ambassadors. So how do I identify these advocates in the first place, right? Contrary to popular belief, the people with the largest following on Instagram or Facebook are not necessarily the most influential. Celebrities themselves have very little influence on people's purchase behavior. And why is this? Because the content these users create feel much less authentic than the people that we relate to on a daily basis. I mean, we know that if Lionel Messi is posting things about a specific product on Instagram, it's because he has been sponsored by that product, most likely. So that reality feel is a little bit disconnected there. We call the people that have the most influence long-tail influencers. So these are individuals who do not intuitively make it to the list of the top social media stars, but they're simply the individuals people love to follow and their opinions carry weight. So while a social media star with like 3 million subscribers or a celebrity like Messi may give more exposure to your brand, engagement driven by long-tail influencers are more likely to turn audiences into actual customers. Like in this case, we have Olapic. She's an Instagrammer who works in fashion and tends to post plenty of personal fashion-like photos on her account. So her images showcase her personality. People like what they see, and they follow her seeking for inspiration for her own fashion outfits. So if she posts about a brand she likes, her opinion posts will certainly carry weight, basically. So how to identify your current brand ambassadors? When using a platform such as Olapic, you can easily see who is generating content that represents your brand. So our data gives brands the ability to understand the power of each consumer, not simply based on the number of followers or volume of engagement they have, but specifically by seeing how much revenue each ambassador's photo has generated. So here I'm obviously putting the product plug here, but it's just to showcase you an example of how this can be done and how we do it and how our clients do it with Olapic. So there's this Olapic's ambassador tab and a screenshot. I just added that screenshot here, where you'll see the number of followers that the ambassador has, the number of likes per photo and the total number of likes, and also you'll be able to see the actual revenue generated by photos and by users. So whenever people click through a specific photo and then they go and buy the product, that's also accounted for. And now how do you actually create new ambassadors? So creating promotions or contests with the intent to increase UGC assets is a great way to engage with your consumers. An Olapic client that we have in the retail space, whose name can't reveal, but specializes in curating a mix of clothing and accessories and gifts and home decor, is a great example of how engaging your consumers helps to turn them into ambassadors and loyalists. So in 2015, what they did is that through a different number of promotions, this brand was able to collect more than 250,000 user-generated photos. So by using these photos on their website, they had a returning visitor interaction rate of 25% and have increased website conversions rates by 2.1 times. So it's important to think bigger. While your short-term need may be to increase your brand assets, your long-term goal should be to turn these content providers into also loyal ambassadors, basically. And in this example that we have here on the photo, Etsy is doing it right simply by celebrating their brand ambassadors when when they publish a photo with a reference to Etsy. It's simple, but it really works. So just give your customers some love back to encourage them to keep sharing more photos and pass the word along to their friends. You just need to like and comment on their photos, and that makes that difference. So it's simple. Engage with them. Just make sure you're listening, and they will care, and they will refer back, and they will want to share more. And finally, if you want to go the extra mile as well, you can run specific ambassador campaigns where you acknowledge the regular fans by offering special treatments occasionally, say for example like sending new product samples or inviting them for product launches, etc. So that also helps with their feel that they are special and they are real ambassadors for your brand. And then it's important as well that you request the rights to use their photos. I mean, it's simple courtesy as well, and it helps with your relationship with the customer. So the first step in cultivating that relationship with the audience is by asking for permission. So once you receive those rights, you can use those photos across all your marketing channels, celebrating your consumer, giving them even more reason to create additional content. There are a few things that you should keep in mind when asking for rights, is to personalize a message, because if you're always sending the same message to everyone, it seems like a standard message that you send to everyone. Therefore, the consumer might stop feeling special. So do tend to personalize it a little bit depending on who you're sending it to. And then choose a simple hashtag for them to answer and to give you the rights, such as, for example, hashtag yes and then the name of your brand. And add a link to the terms of use if you have one, so the terms and conditions. Basically, the ambassadors can become this way a great asset for your brand. And when you take the time to identify them, engage them, and cultivate them, it will pay off. So, as we've seen, visual marketing with authentic consumer-generated content can play a significant influence to engage with your consumers across every step of the way they may come across with your brand. So, in order, however, to make this experience as seamless and as integrated as possible, you just need to make sure that the whole organization is aware of this strategy, complies with it, and applies it to every part of the business that they're responsible for. So after all, only an organization that is fully open in their strategies, that has the ability to deliver on a fully customer-centric experience. So for example, it may be, say, the social team who is responsible for curating any user-generated content and asking for rights from the users to leverage the content, but your legal team also needs to be involved to ensure that the rights requests has the terms and conditions that are relevant to your country of influence. Then the marketing and PR and e-commerce teams need to be aware of all the approved content that the brand has obtained to ensure that then these are updated and included in their own communications as relevant to their activities, and also encourage even more consumer content to be shared. And say, for example, your websites and design teams also need to be involved with the implementation of this content and make sure that it's in line with all the other communications that you do. Also, if you have stores, then your in-store team also needs to be trained to ask people to upload photos of their purchases. Your customer support team also needs to be aware of the photos and everywhere where they're showcased, so that, say, if customer question comes through that is related to a product featured in one of those photos, they know what to answer and they have the questions for them. So this internal open communication, the ongoing touch points with earned content across multiple channels, and the ongoing engagement with customers across this channel will help to create that relationship ecosystem between the brand and the customer, whilst helping them become even more loyal, that they are happy to spend more as well with your brand. So with this, I would like to finish off the session and the topic for the series, but I would be happy to share any questions you might have during the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Anna. Now, I can see quite a few questions coming through, but before we move to the Q&A, I just wanted to let you know about our giveaway today. So tweet your top takeaway from today's webinar with the hashtag visual series, and we'll select a random tweet to win a selfie stick and some other goodies too. So if you've got some more questions, please send them in using the questions button. So first question I can see here. So Anna, when you referred to the example of using user-generated content in billboards, did Macy's use this live, meaning were they showcasing content as people were posting?
That's a good question. So no, and they weren't showcasing it live because it's important for the brand to, one, still curate that content, make sure that it's the right type of content, make sure that it's content that they want to be, again, like in the Calvin Klein example, be related with a brand, associated with a brand, and also be fine, be okay to be showcased to the entire New York population passing by Times Square. So that content, say, has about a one-day turnaround where they would, people would take photos. So it's nearly live. It's not live on the day, but there's just a little bit of work involved behind it. Or people would take photos with a hashtag, goes into the queue. People are curating it, the brand is curating it, making sure it's correct, making sure they have the right to use those photos, to upload those photos, and then they upload it for the next day. So that's how they've done it.
Okay, I've got one more here, which I guess is the Lionel Messi question. So when you refer to a celebrity influencer against a long-tail influencer, you say that the long-tail influencer is more likely to drive results. But in that case, do you think it is pointless to pay the likes of Zoella, who's a big social media star, for her product placement?
So I think there is a space and the time and the value for everything. So I'm not saying that it's completely pointless to have that sort of celebrity references and have those partnerships with those celebrities and social media stars. What I'm saying is that whilst you are having a social media star talking about your brand and referencing your brand, that will give you a lot of engagement and exposure, but will not necessarily give you the people who will actually buy the product. So that's kind of the point, is to have to be able to have different strategies for different purposes. So while Zoella might help you get a wider reach in terms of social, it might on the same way having real consumers actually talking about your product and referencing it will be more important when the customer is trying to make a purchase decision and actually go and buy that product. So that will be a more influence in the purchase end, while Zoella is a great influence in terms of exposure.
Okay, so you talked about the importance of open internal communication, but that's easier said than done. So have you got any tips about how a marketing manager could influence that internally if they're in a large organisation?
So how would they do that? So say, for example, if you're a marketing manager in a larger organisation, I would say talk to the boss. In the end of the day, it's down to each and every one of us to make sure that we get that sort of exposure, right, internally. So if you just get the influence of the relevant people within your organization, prove that what you're trying to do is valid, and by proving that, then those people will go back and influence everyone else around the organization. So it may not be you directly that with your emails to the team may actually make a difference in terms of the strategy influencing all, but if you're able to first talk with the highest senior management and influence them, and you can prove that these are the reasons why it's going to be beneficial to the company if everyone is involved in every step of the way, then it makes sense for that person, the senior management person, to push it down to the entire organization. So that's why I would say that it would work for a large organization.
Okay, well, we did have more questions, but I'm afraid we've run out of time. So I'm sorry, those of you we didn't get around to your questions. But if you have more questions, please tweet them using the hashtag that we mentioned before, Visual Series, and we'll get back to you that way. And we'll be sending out the recording within the next few days alongside the quiz which relates to this session. So if you go back and complete all 3 quizzes, including this one, you could successfully obtain an award of completion. Now these quizzes are short and with only 10 questions, and they'll help to verify the knowledge that you've gained. So I urge you to complete them. Also, once you disconnect, you will see a feedback form. So if you've got any time left, please take 10 seconds to just give us your feedback. Thank you all for attending today, and I hope you find this visual marketing series useful and insightful. Please feel free to contact Olapic via their website, which is www.olapic.com. Should you need some more help in implementing a visual marketing strategy with an authentic consumer content for your own brand. So thank you very much. Bye.